Welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I'm your host, Brittany, and with me, as always, is Amber.
Hello.
What are you drinking this evening?
As promised, I got my pumpkin beer.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I've never had pumpkin beer.
Okay, listen, we'll get into that in a second, because I'm going to fix that this year, because I am coming to see you. But
yeah.
The one I'm drinking right now is Southern Tier Brewing Company Warlock. So first off, great name.
Okay.
Imperial Pumpkin Stout. But it's 8.6% alcohol.
Wow. I would be so on the floor.
It tastes delicious.
I've been on a Harry Potter kick this week, as you know, rewatching the Harry Potter movies. So that would go perfect with my vibe, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What are you drinking?
Well, Sam's Cola was not in stock, so I'm drinking Food Lion Diet Cola.
Food Kitty.
Meow.
And it also looks like a beer can.
It does. I think that they're all that way. I don't know why silver is the given for Diet Cola products, but...
I wonder if they ever would come out with, like, pumpkin soda.
Why have they not yet?
I mean, if it's anything pumpkin, I'm going to try it. Let's be real.
Well, you know, I've been telling you that I like the Pepsi Zero Sugar Mango. It tastes just like carbonated mango to me, though. And look, I hate Pepsi. Amber will tell you, I hate it. It's gross. To me, it tastes like Windex or something, but this doesn't taste like Pepsi, so I don't know.
I don't think it tastes like Windex.
I do. You know how, like, if you smell something, you kind of taste it in your mouth? That's the vibe. Windex is Pepsi. And I know, you know, we're from North Carolina. We're supposed to be about Pepsi, but fuck Pepsi.
Look, Pepsi was born in the Carolinas, but Coca-Cola was born in Georgia. So I have a love for both. I don't think either one tastes like Windex.
Ugh, I don't like Pepsi. When people are like, is Pepsi okay? I want to be like, no, it's not, but neither is water, so we're going to take Pepsi.
You're one of those is Monopoly money okay kind of people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you have any personal true crime stories this week?
You know what my personal true crime is.
The one you're going to tell on our podcast, or?
Oh, yeah. No, there's been a few other ones we're not going to mention.
Exactly.
No, you know, because I don't get to come see you this weekend.
Yeah.
I was supposed to come see you, but someone had to go and get COVID.
Oh my God, I don't have COVID. I got COVID tested and was negative.
I know, I'm just messing with you. I just love to give you shit. You gave me shit when I was sick. I have to give it back
That's
to you.
That's true. That's very true. That is my personal true crime of the week, is that I have an upper respiratory infection and bronchitis, and it's fucking awful. And not only do I have it, the real true crime is that my entire family has it, and they're all driving me up the wall because nobody feels good. Everybody's cranky. Kids, even when they're sick, they don't slow down. So, you know, they're coughing and wheezing as they're running to chase each other to, you know, WWE fight. And I'm just like too tired and lethargic to do anything about it. So it sucks for me to be sick. I hate it. I feel miserable, but it's really them.
Well, speaking of WWE.
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
it's funny that you mentioned that.
Way to lead in with that.
Yeah. Gather around, kids. We're talking about wrestling.
I swear to God, if you don't name this episode, Gather Around Kids, we're talking about wrestling. Like, you've lost the point.
No, for real though, I hate, like literally I can feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up anytime someone says wrestling. And I know you know people that pronounce it that way, because I do.
Oh, for sure.
It's wrestling, but okay. And I know that we're both from the South and we say things with a funny twang sometimes, but that's just one word that just...
I get it, because for me, my thing like that with words is seen and saw. If people are like, guess who I seen the other day? I'm going to be like, boo! Like, I can't handle it. Who did you see? Because what you meant was who I saw. Like, I can't do it.
Grammar queens.
Okay, so tell me who we're talking about.
Yeah, anyway, so yes. Very tragic story. Horrible. Should have never happened. A lot to do with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, it's just fucking sad. So
it is.
Just forewarning. I don't know if you'll want some tissues. I don't know if my storytelling is going to do that justice, but there is a documentary. I will link it in our show notes. It literally ruined my day.
Yeah, no, Amber Marco poloed me while researching this and just had tear streaks down her shirt.
I did. I was crying my eyes out.
It was awful.
Because there's been so many documentaries on this guy and this story, because it made headlines for obvious reasons.
Right.
But I think I watched probably 4 of them. There was one on CNN. There was a Larry King. There was just a bunch of documentaries about this because of all the speculation about the why around it, which we'll get into.
Right.
Like the psychology side and, what drives someone to do certain things. But Vice put out one, I want to say at the beginning of last year. And boy, it's a 2-parter. And I literally had to stop halfway through the first part and take a mental break because I was just sobbing uncontrollably because it was that sad.
It is.
They did a really good job of portraying both sides of the story, if that makes sense.
Well, that's good.
But anyways, enough about that. I'll get into the super sad details. So when I say the words the Canadian crippler, it sounds like a serial killer, doesn't it?
Kind of, yes.
That's actually not the case because today I'm covering Chris Benoit, who was a French-Canadian professional wrestler who dominated televised wrestling for 22 years. He won countless titles and championships all over the world, and many of his peers considered him one of the all-time greatest wrestlers who ever lived.
He was top-notch.
But all the fame and power came to a screeching halt in June of 2007 when he and his family were found dead in their Fayetteville, Georgia home. So while we don't have the exact answers as to why this happened, we're going to deep dive into what may have happened based on some of the clues left behind. Oh, it's just so sad.
It is sad.
Before I start, though, did you ever get into wrestling?
Well, yes. I wrestled in high school on the wrestling team for a brief period of time.
No, I mean like the fake stuff.
Oh, no. No.
Like on TV. You didn't get into that? Did your husband?
Mm-mm. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But if so, he's not ever said.
Well, now I'm feeling like a real nerd because I also asked my husband, like, oh, did you watch wrestling growing up? And he was like, no.
But I know
like,
you did.
What kind of idiot would? I sure did. I sure did.
Did you have a WWE shirt? I swear to God you did. A black one. I just see it in my mind. Yep. There it is.
I did. I was into wrestling because I was a big tomboy when I was little.
That's true. I only ever got into high school wrestling because the wrestling coach was cute. So let's be real about that.
Oh, jeez. I mean, I could have guessed, but whatever. Did you do well?
I did okay.
Yeah.
The coolest part of that was I got to meet Radio.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I did, yep. At a wrestling tournament down in South Carolina. And that was really cool.
Did not know that. Look at us still learning about stuff about each other.
Always.
All right. Well, yeah, I was into wrestling. That made me question things, though, because I did not remember Chris Benoit.
I guess because he was Canadian, right?
No, he did come to America. He was Canadian at first. He literally wrestled all over the world, and we'll get into all that, but he was big time.
Okay.
All the people he wrestled with, I remember. But for some reason, I didn't remember him, and then I realized he kind of came into it as I got out of it.
Oh, okay. That's
why.
That's why.
To any other nerds who were into wrestling way back in the day, I was into Goldberg. He was my favorite. And I actually still follow him on Instagram to this day. Only because he is a UGA fan.
Oh, okay. Did you think that was going to make it less nerdy or?
No, I need to shut my trap and get on with the story.
Because I love you. And I love that you're a nerd.
And yes, I did have a shirt.
It was black, wasn't it?
I had several shirts. It was black, yes.
Did it have lightning on it?
It did. I had a Sting shirt.
Can't remember what I ate yesterday for lunch, but I can tell you about the WWE shirts from elementary school. Like, what?
God. So ashamed. But at some point, about the time I hit puberty, I realized this is real stupid, and I got out of it. I think it was because a lot of kids were like, it's fake, right? And I was like, yeah. But it's still entertaining to watch. I don't know.
Like, I didn't even like that, and I would get mad when people would say that to you. And I remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, who cares if it is fake? If she likes it, let her fucking like it, asshole.
I know. Different times. Kids are mean.
Yes.
All right, well, back to Chris Benoit. He was born on May 21st, 1967 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, to parents Michael and Margaret Benoit. And like most Canadians, he was fluent in both English and French.
Love that.
Which I just love.
Yes.
Sometime after Chris was born, the family moved to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And this is where he spent a majority of his childhood. His dad even took him to see his favorite wrestler, Tom Billington, aka the Dynamite Kid, and that's where he decided that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Little kid just like, oh my god, that's what I want to do. This is so cool.
That's so cute.
And that's what he did.
That's adorable.
And his dad wasn't even into wrestling. He said he developed this love all on his own.
Aw.
He just watched him on TV.
Yay for his dad, though, for like being interested in his son's interests, you know?
Yeah. No, his dad's the cutest.
That's adorable.
He even bought him a set of weights because he wanted to get in shape and live his dream of being a wrestler one day. So he went out and got him a set of weights.
Oh my God. The visual that gives me is just adorable.
Yes. And then this led to him entering his very first local wrestling match at just 12 years old.
Oh my gosh.
After training for several years at the Hart Dynasty Gym, Chris's professional career began when he turned 18 years old. His first official match was with Stampede Wrestling on November 22nd, 1985 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and he went by the nickname Dynamite after his hero, which was the Dynamite Kid.
Oh.
And yes, if you're curious, his team won. It was a tag team match, and him and his tag team partner, I guess you would say, they won. So his signature move after the Dynamite Kid, because, you know, that's where he learned everything from, was called the flying headbutt. And that just sounds painful just hearing it.
It does.
What he would do is literally get to the top rope in the corner of the ring and just like swan dive, but like with his legs spread out, and then just basically headbutt the person on the ground.
Oh my gosh. Ow.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into all that head trauma here in just a minute, Boo. Don't you worry.
I mean, I've had my 2-year-old headbutt me and thought I needed to go to the ER, so.
Well, I literally told you a couple weeks ago, I was playing with my dog and she headbutted me. I almost blacked out. And I texted Brittany and said, I hit my frontal lobe. If I turn into a serial killer, will you please do an episode about me?
And I was like, I got you, boo.
She did. So sometime during the 80s, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find the exact date or the history. But sometime in the 80s, Chris fell in love and married a woman named Martina. And they went on to have 2 children, David and Megan. So a little boy and a little girl.
So cute.
Chris went on to win his first mid-heavyweight championship just a few years later in March of 1988, followed by 7 more titles while with Stampede Wrestling until they closed their doors in 1989. And he said that he was very technical, like he took everything very seriously. He wasn't in it just to be famous or cool. He actually was in love with the sport of it and like the art of it, I guess you'd say. So he also trained and wrestled for New Japan Pro Wrestling from 86 to 94. And this is where he would fight with a mask on, and he went under the nickname the Pegasus Kid. I don't know where that came from, but that's what he went by.
Okay. All right. That's cute, though.
He did most of his training in Canada. So then once he learned that and he saw that New Japan Wrestling was kind of taking off and was like a different style and more technical, he's like, well, I want to perfect my craft, and went over there.
That's awesome.
And their thing was wearing masks, kind of like
Nacho Libre.
Yes. And so that's what he did. And this is actually where he met his BFF, Eddie Guerrero. They were matched up to fight each other. And so they were like, oh, this guy's an ass and I'm going to whoop him. And then they fought and they realized how they both had the same love of the sport and they bonded over it. And they became like attached at the hip BFFs.
Oh, that's
it was very
awesome.
cute.
So cool.
Yeah. But anyways, it was very stepbrothers. They hated each other at first. And then they were like, wait, did we just become best friends?
Yup.
You want to go do karate in the gym?
I'm here for it.
And of course, during his time with NJPW, he won even more titles and championships and even moved to Japan briefly to win tournaments in 1993 and 1995.
He was doing it all.
And you got to remember, he's got a wife and kids too.
Yeah, we're like, whew, that's a lot.
He then joined the WCW, the World Championship Wrestling, in June of 1992, and the ECW, the Extreme Championship Wrestling, in August of 94, while still wrestling in Japan and Europe and Mexico in between.
Holy cow. I just can't even imagine like the frequent flyer miles, you know?
Well, that's why I was saying he's literally earning championships all around the world. I wasn't just saying that. Like,
You know, that's a really cool accomplishment, though, to just not be great in one section of the world, you know, to go everywhere and try to be the best everywhere.
Yes. During one of his ECW matches in November of 94, he accidentally broke his opponent's neck.
Ooh.
So, as you and I hope most people know, televised wrestling is technically fake.
Right.
They write a script. They know who's going to win. They have certain moves. They work together to make it fun to watch, but they're not actually
trying to obliterate each other.
right. Well, apparently, whatever move they were supposed to do when the match started, he thought he was going one way, the guy thought he was going another way, and he accidentally got him with his arm somehow and broke the guy's neck. And this horrified Chris. He went to the locker room and hung his head and was like, my career's over. I think I paralyzed someone. Like, he was devastated. But this led to his nickname, the Canadian Crippler. Like, people ate it up, even though this poor guy broke his neck. People were like, yes!
Oh, I'm sure.
Everywhere he went, the crowd would like chant his name. And so he just kind of fell into it and became the Canadian Crippler. So for the remainder of the 90s, he began wrestling in WCW full-time and became part of the Four Horsemen, which was Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Brian Pillman. So going back to the drama of TV wrestling and the scripting of it all. Well, they scripted him to rival with another wrestler, Kevin Sullivan. And part of that script was that Chris was having an affair with his wife to, like, you know, cause the drama.
Oh my God. That's so dirty.
Isn't it though? I was like, look, women have their housewives, men have their wrestling. It's the same. It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Kevin literally said, hey, I know we're rivals on the TV. Let's make it even juicier. And we'll say that you're having an affair with my wife, Nancy. So they made it look as real as possible. Executives forced them to hang out together in public, hold hands, the whole 9 yards. And you would have guessed this led to them actually falling in love with each other in real life.
Oh my God. Was Chris still married to his wife at this point?
Yes. Yes.
I don't like that.
Well, from what I understand, by the time that they formed their relationship for real, his marriage was already going towards divorce anyways.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They ended up together and fell in love. And so in 1997, Chris and his first wife's divorce became final, and Nancy left Kevin for Chris.
Ooh, I bet Kevin was not happy.
No, but everyone jokes that he literally wrote his own divorce.
He kind of did. Kind of did.
I wouldn't have done that. That's pretty ballsy.
It is ballsy.
Because she's a very beautiful woman.
Yes, she is. I've seen a picture of her and she is.
So a couple years later, Nancy became pregnant and gave birth to their son Daniel in February of 2000. And then later that year in November, Nancy and Chris made things official and got married. And then they settled their family down in Fayetteville, Georgia. So the year 2000 was a very, very busy year for Chris. He wasn't happy wrestling for WCW anymore. Obviously, there was a lot of scripting drama going on, but there's also like disagreements with management and this and that. So he and some of his close friends, including his BFF Eddie Guerrero, decided to give the WCW the middle finger and leave, and they switched over to the WWE.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think it was WWF at the time, but they changed their name.
Right.
But yeah, they were happy to have him because those were the two big wrestling groups at the time, and of course I watched both.
My gracious.
Also in 2000, speaking of breaking necks, Chris himself suffered a serious neck injury after a TLC match, which resulted in surgery and taking a year off. Do you know what a TLC match is?
No.
I didn't either, and I don't know why I didn't put it together, but it's tables, ladders, and chairs.
I was thinking it was like Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls type TLC. Like, were they there? Were they singing? Like, you know.
Like they're singing and having a concert while they're fighting?
Yeah.
No, it's where you literally get in the ring and you can use those three objects to just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, sounds like a great time.
And there are certain ways that you can take falls. It's very technical. Or certain ways that you can look like you're hitting someone without actually hitting them and making it very dramatic. Chris was the guy that would say, no, really hit me. Really hit me. I want this to be real. I want my fans to believe it.
Oh my.
And so he would actually get hit. Fists, chairs, ladders, all of it.
No.
Again, more and more injuries to the head and God knows what else. But after taking that year off, the rest of his wrestling career with WWE, he went on to win endless amounts of titles and championships, even returning to good old Canada a couple times. We could be here all day listing off all the championships he's won. If you're interested, I'll post his Wikipedia link and you can go knock yourself out.
Oh.
Dad jokes.
Telling you. Today's episode is brought to you by DB. DB is a Scandinavian brand that makes backpacks and bags to help people on the move stay ready for anything. From the streets to the peaks, DB's gear is travel tested by some of the world's best athletes, adventurers, and creators. Over the past decade, DB has designed and developed, released, and refined the best bags in the market. With DB's patented hookup system, you are able to attach smaller products to your backpack, roller, or tote. I know that when I travel, quality luggage is extremely important to me. We are teaming up with DB to exclusively offer our listeners 10% off your next purchase by using the code POD10 or going to the link in our show notes. DB, it's time to move on. Time to get going.
So, aside from that neck injury, he's literally on top of the world. He's winning championships. He's got a beautiful wife and a big family, money, fame, fortune, all of it. But it did come crashing down around him in 2003. That is the year that his wife, Nancy, actually filed for a divorce and a restraining order against him.
What?
Yes. She cited, quote, cruel treatment, and basically said that Chris would lose his temper and threatened to hit her and cause damage to their home, furniture, and personal belongings. However, she later, quickly from what I understand, dropped both of these.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was just a wild week of arguing that just kind of got out of hand when, emotions are high and you're like, I'm over it, I'm done with you. And then hindsight being like, oh, we were just arguing.
Yeah, or maybe, he said, hey, I'll get some help, or like, we'll work on this, something like that.
Yes. So they did stay together, but there were restraining orders and divorces being thrown around. And not only this, but in November of 2005, Chris lost his best friend, Eddie Guerrero. He was found dead in his hotel room of a heart attack. Eddie struggled off and on with drugs, as a lot of wrestlers do, and we'll get into that later. He had actually OD'd several times before, but somehow pulled through, and this time he had just fallen off the wagon, and it was his last time.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
I always want to see addicts getting help and recovering,
Well, I mean, this is a good part to jump into this, but like in the world of wrestling, or any sports for that matter, you're there to put on a show. It is a sport and you're there to win, but also you have millions of fans watching your every move and literally paying your bills.
Right.
So when you're out there and you're a football player or a wrestler or a soccer player and you get injured, your career is over. And
Right.
so what these people would do is, oh no, man, just take a bunch of painkillers, walk it off,
To make
get
it
back
through,
out there.
yeah.
Next thing you know, you're addicted and you're taking more than you're supposed to. And then you run out of pain pills and you resort to other things to make
Right.
it through. And
Well, too, this is at a time where people weren't talking about the pain pill epidemic.
No,
we were
no, they
going
were
through
not.
it actively. I mean, which we still are, but it wasn't like, oh, well, this is why people are getting hooked on other drugs, is because doctors give them pain pills or
right. And also anabolic steroids. In interviews that I watched and read, that you wanted to be the biggest, toughest guy in the ring. And if you could not do that, or even if you
Right.
could naturally, you were never big enough. You juiced up. And at the time, there were very light guidelines as far as getting away with that.
right,
But after Eddie passed away, they really,
ramped it up.
they did, but there were a lot of loopholes in that.
Right.
That you could get around, of course, because WCW and WWE, they knew what they were providing to the public and that they wanted to keep that going,
Right.
while also presenting themselves as caring and, yeah, we look out for our wrestlers, but really like you still need to get out there and do your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only was it sad for that reason and caused the changes, but like this was Chris's best friend. They were friends for years and he did not know what to do with himself.
I'm sure not. I wouldn't know what to do without you.
I know. I think that's where I started crying so hard, because he like lost his best friend and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no. That's awful.
The night after his death, WWE Raw held a very emotional tribute show where they went around and interviewed other wrestlers about the life of Eddie Guerrero. And Chris was seen pretty much anytime the camera was on him, he was bawling uncontrollably. Like no acting, real tears, just
That's so sad.
devastated. I know. But he thought, what would Eddie want me to do? So he picked himself up and kept wrestling. Chris Benoit's final wrestling match was on June 19th, 2007, where he won against his opponent Elijah Burke. This match was part of a series leading up to the ECW World Championship a few days later that was going to be held in Texas, and this is where he was supposed to ultimately fight CM Punk and win the championship.
Okay.
However, Chris missed the following matches. And when people were like, hey man, where you at? He called and said he had a family emergency, that his wife and his son had food poisoning and that they were vomiting up blood and he needed to stay and take care of them.
Oh.
And so management's like, okay, that's fine, but you've been scripted to win this thing.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I'll be there. I'll just be late. I'm going to miss a couple matches, but I'll be there later.
Okay.
But on Saturday, June 23rd, 2007, a fellow wrestler and friend of Chris's, Chavo Guerrero, which is actually Eddie's nephew, he grew concerned when he wasn't showing up. This guy lived, ate, breathed wrestling, and then all of a sudden he's just not showing up.
Right.
So he called him. He grew concerned. He's like, hey, man, like, everything okay? And Chris confirmed, yeah, you know, my wife and my son have food poisoning. I'm taking care of them. But Chavo said that he sounded off when he talked to him on the phone because Chris even ended the call with, quote, Chavo, I love you. Like, very, like, somber. And he's like, hey, man, you okay? You need anything? And he goes, no, I'm fine. I love you. And then so he went to bed and was like, all right, I'll pick you up at the airport tomorrow. So the next day, which is Sunday, June 24th, 2007, around 5:30 in the morning, he found a total of 5 text messages on his phone. And these texts were sent using both Chris and Nancy's cell phones around 3 in the morning. And they said, the family dogs are in the enclosed pool area and the garage side door is left open. And then the other texts were like his home address. Almost like directions about like how to get to his home and how to get in.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
So when they met up at the airport to pick him up, he's like, hey, did you get a text from Chris? And he goes, yeah, and Nancy. And they were the exact same texts. So they went to Vince McMahon, who is the owner and CEO and chairman. They showed the texts to him and he freaked out, as I would too, and sent police to do a wellness check at Chris's house.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, Vince called a meeting to let all the staff know that Chris and his family had passed away. During this wellness check, Lieutenant Larry Alden with the Fayette County Sheriff's Department and one of his deputies went out to the house and discovered the entire family dead. They saw the 2 dogs in the backyard, 2 German Shepherds, and went in through the unlocked door, just like the text said. When they first walked in, they didn't immediately see anything suspicious, so they made their way upstairs. The first bedroom they came to was actually where they found 7-year-old Daniel. He was laying face down in his bed and had died of asphyxiation. I'm sorry, Brittany.
Okay. I knew it was coming.
They then went to the master bedroom where they found 43-year-old Nancy. She had been bound and her head wrapped in a towel with blood underneath it, and she had also been choked to death.
Ugh.
And then at last they had found Chris. He was downstairs in their home gym and had apparently hung himself from his own weight machine.
Ugh.
So it appeared to be a murder-suicide. This took place over several days. So what police believed based on evidence is that on Friday, what they do know for sure is that Friday evening they grilled out at home. And there were reports that Nancy and Chris had some sort of fight or argument because neighbors heard yelling. And this somehow led to Chris bound Nancy with duct tape and then wrapped a telephone cord around her neck and strangled her, pushing his knee in her back. But he pushed his knee so hard into her back that it actually broke her back.
Ooh. I hope she died soon after.
Toxicology reports found that she did have prescription medications and alcohol in her system, but from what I know, they weren't high levels.
Right.
So it didn't appear that he drugged her or got her drunk and then performed it. It was just
spur of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah. However, they did do a toxicology on Daniel and they found a lot of Xanax in his system. So they believe that Chris murdered Nancy Friday evening, went to bed, and then Saturday morning drugged Daniel with the Xanax and then suffocated him in his room. And then after this, made the phone calls about the food poisoning.
The fuck?
Yeah. I don't know if he was trying to figure out what he was going to do. I don't know if he snapped. I don't know if he knew where he was or what was. I don't know. Nobody will ever know. This is the timeline of events based on
what police
evidence and forensics.
Right, okay.
Yes. And then on Sunday, they did find searches on the home computer on the internet for the prophet Elijah in the Bible and how he resurrected a dead boy.
That's sad.
and also searching the quickest, most painless way of breaking your own neck. So he was just struggling.
Yeah, obviously he clearly regretted what he had done.
Yes. So basically, sometime after that, he went down to his home gym, wrapped a towel and the metal cord of the weight machine around his neck, and added 240 pounds of weight, and then just let go of the bars so that it just hung himself, more or less.
That's rough.
They did find a lot of beer cans and wine bottles around, so they think he was pretty drunk. They also found anabolic steroids. They found a large knife under Daniel's bed, and people speculate either Daniel put that there himself, like he was scared, or maybe Chris put it there, like maybe he was going to do that instead. Nobody knows, but there was a knife found.
Either way, I don't like it. I don't like that it was there.
No, it's not good.
Oh.
There was also Bibles found next to each body. There was a Bible found next to Nancy's body. There was a Bible found next to Daniel's body. And then Chris didn't have one next to him, but Chris had his own Bible that he used around the house. And it was confirmed that there were writings and highlighting and stuff in his Bible in certain places. And there was a page marked, and it talked something about him preparing to leave this earth. So even though he didn't leave an exact suicide note, it was indicating that he was planning something.
He was thinking about it, at least.
He was thinking about it, yes. So basically, before knowing any of these details or any of this information, when the WWE found out, they were supposed to have the big championship match in Corpus Christi.
Right.
They wanted to immediately give their condolences. So they did a 3-hour televised memorial tribute rather than the scheduled pay-per-view event. And basically all the wrestlers, all the employees, everyone just went on and shared kind words about Chris. Chris was a great wrestler. He was the best. I hate that he passed away so soon. And this all aired on TV before anybody knew what actually happened.
Right.
So all this went on, and then after the fact, they were like, oh, by the way, Chris is the one that actually murdered his family. And they were like, oh, well, we just put ourselves on TV.
Yeah, like, thanks for
singing
that.
his praises. Yeah.
Well, I think that both of those things can be true, though. I mean, obviously, he was a great wrestler. And I just think, obviously, and I know you're going to go there, I think there's a lot more to it than just, like, it's just a dude that killed his wife and son.
Mm-hmm. So once Vince McMahon found out, he quickly made a statement and said, look, yes, we did have a memorial for Chris. We did not know details at the time. We do now, and we're not going to make any further statements about it. And they did not. What they also didn't do, and this is real fucked up, once this happened, they did not do anything. Not a phone call, not a counseling session, nothing for any of the family members.
Wow.
Nothing. Because you have to remember, yes, he killed his wife and his son, but he still had a son and a daughter and an ex-wife, friends, grieving, not knowing what to do. They did nothing. Not even a phone call to say, I'm sorry, no flowers.
And this is a good example of how very drastic, even just like the past, 20 years, mental health is looked at.
Oh, yeah. Once they found out, oh, he murdered his family, they didn't care how or why or what. They just...
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be so confusing. God, that's got to be so confusing. And
it's the family, because you and I both talk about how bullshit it is. Like when Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, and they go to trial. If you want to go outside and say, burn Ted, burn, that's fine. But don't, if you see his mom talk about your son's going to hell and shit like that.
Yes.
Why would you do that? They had nothing to do with that. They're just as heartbroken, if not worse, than anybody else. You need to be there and support them.
Exactly.
Because God knows he gave a lot of support to y'all, made y'all lots of money, and then you can't even pick up a phone. But whatever.
At the cost of his family's sacrifice. I mean, I'm not talking about their murder, but I'm sure there are many
missed
hours.
Birthdays.
Stuff missed,
They did also find a diary that Chris kept. He was really struggling with his grief after he lost his best friend, Eddie.
Right.
And they said maybe a good form of therapy to try to get through that grief is to not only journal, but write letters to Eddie, to try to get some stuff out. And so that's what he did. He had journals and diaries where he would write, Dear Eddie, and talk about his day and talk about, how he was feeling and what he was going through, which is very sweet and all. But the closer it got to when the murders happened, the more insane he started to sound. He started getting very paranoid. He wrote things to Eddie like, quote, I'll be with you soon.
Wow.
So Chris's dad, Michael, actually has the diary now. It was in evidence, of course, but now he has it. And when interviewed about some of the entries in it, he said that it was, quote, written by someone who was extremely disturbed at the time. And it showed that he was very, very depressed. So it's just very sad. And once the media found out about this, you know, this wrestler that everyone said was amazing and sweet and caring, and then he just all of a sudden murders his family. The whole roid rage was everywhere.
Yes.
That's not how that works, people, for those who don't know. Yes, roid rage is a thing, but it doesn't cause you to kill your family.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than that. The WWE, when asked for statements about their drug and wellness program, they did say that they did have testing and that it got more strict after Eddie's death. But like I said, there were loopholes.
Yeah.
Like Chris had testing done prior to everything happening and was tested frequently and passed with flying colors every time. But do you know why he passed?
Somebody else's pee.
No.
Oh, okay.
Good guess, though. Because his doctor prescribed these anabolic steroids and these painkillers.
Jesus. Okay.
And regardless of the amount in his system, if they were prescribed, they looked the other way. He passed.
I hope that man lost his fucking license, is what I hope.
Dr. Phil C. Aston, he was charged with overprescribing medication in a case not even connected to Chris's. And in 2009, he admitted that he illegally prescribed drugs, sometimes without even examining the patients first.
Wow.
And pled guilty to all 175 counts against him.
Holy shit.
Can you guess what he got sentenced with?
2 years.
10. But
Oh,
still.
wow. That's a little better than I was thinking, but that just shows you how very not confident I am in sentencing.
Correct, yes. So yeah, he did get some charges. Nancy's sister also confirmed that the divorce papers and the restraining order that happened prior did happen, that they were true and that they were the result of a physical altercation. But she said aside from that, that like her sister had never been more in love and that he was the sweetest, kindest person you'd ever know. That he, I guess, slowly turned it into someone else.
Yeah.
Speaking of theories as to why he did what he did, the biggest one, and I'll not even call it a theory, I'll go ahead and say it, it's the cause. You can say what you want, but a neuroscientist and actually a former wrestler who knew Chris, named Chris Nowinski, he started the Concussion Legacy Foundation to educate and do research about CTE. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a real thing. It's a form of brain damage. It's best known by boxers, but in literally any contact sport, football, ice hockey, soccer, anything that causes any sort of impact or injury to the head, most people can have CTE and not even know it. And if you go and look at any footage of Chris Benoit doing any wrestling moves whatsoever, I mean, he freaking started out in his career before he even got famous doing flying headbutts.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about brain damage here, like, I'm not shocked.
Yeah. Recurring brain damage.
So this guy, Chris Nowinski, he actually used to be a wrestler, had CTE himself, and realized the damages of this and the sport and people not recognizing it and it causing problems. So he decided, I'm going to go to school, get my PhD, become a neuroscientist, and created this foundation.
Okay. And yes, Chris Nowinski.
Oh, yeah. So he reached out to Chris's dad, Michael, after he passed away and said, look, I fully believe this is what happened to your son. I think your son was an amazing person, and brain damage can do a lot of things and change you into a completely different person. But I want to prove it. Can I have a piece of his brain to do an autopsy? And he said yes.
Oh, thank goodness. Yes, that's the thing to do.
Yes. So they did do a brain autopsy in July of 2007 and held a press conference about their findings. And it was bad. They said, quote, the findings of CTE in Chris Benoit's brain are consistent with the previous exams of athletes who suffered from repeated head traumas, and they do confirm the need for large-scale study of CTE in athletes who participate in any sort of contact sports. Dr. Bennett Omalu, I'm probably butchering that. He was a lead forensic neuropathologist. He said that Chris Benoit's brain resembled that of an 85-year-old with Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And has no idea how he was even living somewhat of a normal life. And the paranoia that he was documenting in his diary about, he thought people were like following him home. He made his wife if she was going to go to the gym, he'd be like, well, you know how you normally take this road? Can you take the long way today? I think someone's going to follow you. You know, just like signs of major damage going on. And I'll actually put pictures of this when we post this episode of a healthy brain and Chris's brain. It'll blow your mind.
Oh, yes.
Like it's
cannot wait.
It's like night and day. It's bad.
Like, this is one of those things, like, you want to be, like, I want to be so unbelievably angry at this man for doing this to his child and to his wife, and it's fucked up. But it's also, like, his brain was fucking fried.
Oh, it was gone. And yes, toxicology, he was full of steroids and all that, but the brain.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just think, like, that's the perfect storm.
It really is.
He had been drinking, he had been on steroids, he had horrible brain damage, like, grief from his best friend just dying. Like, it was the perfect storm, honestly.
Oh, yes. The Concussion Legacy Foundation is still a very active thing. A lot of people are starting to speak out more about it. After Chris had passed away, like I said, he still had a son and a daughter. Well, David is actually taking after his father, hopefully being more careful. I would assume
let's hope.
But he is pursuing his own dreams of becoming a wrestler. He's trained at Canadian Strong Style Wrestling Academy. And recently, I'm talking this year, joined RCW, which is Real Canadian Wrestling. And in an interview with David, when asked how he felt about wrestling, he said, quote, "I still love it. It's in my blood." End quote. And he is just literally the spitting image of his father. I'm going to link the Vice documentary. It's so good. And they interview David and he talks about like the dad that he was. It's probably like you reading the BTK book about Carrie Rawson and like how she saw a totally different side. That was her dad, you know, like this was his dad. Yeah. He was not that person, but that just goes to show you what fucking brain trauma can do to somebody.
Yep. It can really mess you up.
But thank God we're at least talking about it now. There's research being done.
Yes.
A show I used to watch with The Rock, Ballers, he talked about being a football player and like being a manager over them. Even at I think the last few seasons, all they talked about was concussions and brain trauma with football players and how they needed to talk about it more. So it's definitely getting some light. Thank God. It's still a problem, but hopefully we won't have to cover this anymore.
I hope not.
Love our podcast? Then hit that subscribe button and leave us a review.
We're also on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/truecrimebuzz and join today for access to all our exclusive content, including bonus episodes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TC Buzz Podcast.
And check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com.
Until next time,
cheers!